presidency late. Didn't they ask Hanoi to go to the table and start? They started negotiations. Remember I told you that. And Nixon said he wasn't going to disclose his plan to bring an honorable end to the war because he didn't want to mess up the delicate negotiations that were going on at the time. In other words, if he said something that went against what the North Vietnamese were wanting to do, then he would have messed it up right away. So he didn't state specifically how he would end the war because he did not wish to upset the delicate peace process that were taking place. Now, who's really kind of up the creek here in a way? Why is Humphrey? It doesn't matter what Humphrey says about civil rights. It doesn't matter what Humphrey says about the Vietnam War. It doesn't matter what Humphrey says about law and disorder, because he's getting blamed for what? Everything, because he's the establishment candidate. So it doesn't matter what he says, because he's the establishment candidate. And he was the incumbent, and he found himself in difficulty because he was with the present administration. And all the problems that were going on in the United States, he was tied to. So my point is, he can say all kinds of things. It did not matter because he wasn't going to have much luck because he was the incumbent. Is it not easy to create? It's easy to run against an incumbent, isn't it? Especially if things are going bad. All you have to do is say everything they're doing bad. You don't have anything. They can't criticize you. You never were in the position. Okay? Well, anyway, let's tell you about the result of the election of 1968 will be done today. Anybody remember how many people voted in the election of 1960? I told you it was the largest number in many, many years. 69 million when Kennedy went against Nixon in 60. More than 73 million voted in the election of 1968. It had great interest. More than 73 million. Of that 73 million votes, Nixon beat Humphrey by 510,000, or 0.0069. So it was very, very close in the popular vote. Not as close as the election of 1960, but close. So out of 73 million votes, Nixon defeated Humphrey by 510,000, or about 0.0069. Well, again, I've said this many times, you know, popular votes and $1 will buy you a snack in the pop machine there, or the candy machine. Just like I said before, if we have a population of 500,000 in Wyoming and 499,999 vote for me, and 1 votes for Allison, I still only get a small number of electoral votes. Okay? So Nixon did quite well in the Electoral College. He won 302 electoral votes to Humphrey's 191. So it was pretty close there for a political election, 302 to 191, fairly close. And guess who picked up 45 electoral votes? First time that a third-party candidate picked up many electoral votes, and that was Wallace. So it was 302 for Nixon, or excuse me, 302, yes, for Nixon, 191 for Vice President Humphrey, and Wallace accumulated 45. So he made a good showing. When Ross Perot ran as an independent during the Clinton-Bush, H. Bush election, he poured billions of dollars in that election, never got 1 electoral vote. So it takes a lot to get him. So Wallace showed well, mainly and obviously in the South. So as a result of the election of 1968, Richard M. Nixon becomes the nation's 37th president. But he's going to face some serious difficulties early. He becomes the nation's 37th president, but he's going to face some serious difficulties. What are they going to be? What's the difficulties he's going to face? What's that? Well, no, we're not there yet. He's going to have a pretty successful, because of the circumstances, first term. It's his second term that gets him in trouble. But who's he going to fight all the time? Who's the president fight when things are going bad? What? Congress. And why would he fight Congress? Because they're controlled by he's a Republican. Democrats. So you have a Democratic-controlled Congress and a Republican president, which will take us to our subtopic tomorrow, which is difficult times for President Nixon, because he's going to be fighting a battle against a Democratic-controlled Congress. That never does you well. It's hard to pass things and get things done. Okay? All right.